Peter Shea, I'm the chairman of the commission. Considering the weather outside, I appreciate the wonderful crowd of folks who've come here this afternoon. And I appreciate our host at the Epic Center in the Reserve at Charlestown Landing. We do have at the end of the meeting the ability to take public comments. And so we'll see how our time is running with that. We do like to hear from the public information that they may want to share with us, their thoughts or concerns with our efforts to revitalize West Ashland. So the first order of business is we will receive a report from R4 Architects on the 1948-1950 Savannah Highway redevelopment plan. Do you have a microphone? Oh, okay. Are you going to speak loud? Do you need to use that?
I can speak loud if you like.
Eric is going to take us away from.
I need to hear you. I need to hear you want to get this guy first?
Yes. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming in and allowing me to present our revitalization project. My name is Mike Remesey, president of R4 Architecture. And we wanted to start off the presentation by giving everyone a good sense of the project. So we did a drone flyover that pretty much shows the entire site, what's currently on the site, so you can get an understanding of the property we're dealing with, and we'll get into the design provided. A couple things I want to kind of talk about before we get into the presentation. I've been working with the Plassis family for about 15 years, so we've done a number of projects together. And just to let you know, this particular project I've been working on with the family for 2014. So it's been years of researching the property, analyzing uses, designing until we get to today's presentation. We've done pretty extensive exploring, what made sense for the project. Sorry if I keep turning away from the microphone. I usually yell pretty loud. So if do you have the clicker? Oh, it's right here. So we'll start the presentation. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I mean, obviously you can see the buildings, and if anyone's curious, that's the Stone River in the background. And this potentially will be the view from the uppermost floor of the hotel, which I'll explain what that is as we go forward. So I'm gonna.
It may be helpful to give everybody a sort of a point of reference.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is, and that was going to be on the site plan. That's Savannah Highway where automobiles are traveling. The road on this side is Orleans, and we come around this side is DuPont, Orleans, Savannah Highway. Okay. Slide. Does your clicker work, Eric? Oh, okay, so this is a conceptual site plan drawing, and I want to go through some of the important factors of the design and explain some of the design criteria and what we've done and why this is a very workable site plan, and it makes perfect sense for the hospitality use that we're planning for it. So I'm gonna have to point a little bit with my finger, so I'm going to try and walk you through some of the aspects of the project. So it's a 10.2 acre site. The primary structure is this hotel. The curvilinear shape is the hotel building. This component on the back is a convention component with the hotel. We have two retail buildings, 5,000 square foot each on the Savannah Highway frontage. And as you can see, we have two reflecting pond water features, which is a very important element of the design. I'll get into that with you. But the primary entrance is off of Savannah Highway. And what we did there is we have a very welcoming entrance, if you will. We've got some very large radiuses. Our concern in this design is getting traffic off of Highway 17 or Savannah Highway. There's a lot of buildings that have trouble with, a high traffic time with, congestion on the highways. Designing this with the larger radiuses, you're not having to slow down or come to a complete stop. I mean, we're not asking people to race into the entrance, but, it'll allow cars to depart the Savannah Highway pretty rapidly. And then we got probably a good 10 to 15 car stack with that driveway. And we purposely did not show any access to the parking. We want the vehicles to enter the drive and get off the highway and then make the decision either to come up to the porte cochere or to park. Now, let me get into the reflecting ponds. Every design we did, going back to when we started, those were major components of the design. The idea and thought was they're very calming, they're very welcoming, and they're a very exciting feature as you enter the property. We want, when we design projects, a lot of people don't really think about how you approach a building, and that's a very big component to architecture. In our studies way back, everything was not only about the building, but the experience getting to the building. So this for us is important as far as guests arriving, driving down a very widened drive aisle and having reflecting ponds on each end with, aerators or fountains, if you will. And it also has secondary functions relative to the hotel that I'll get into as we go further into the design. So primary entrance off the Savannah Highway, it's more of a grand entrance to approach the hotel. And again, as you get to the end, you can do, left or right to get to the parking areas. Or what we now have is what they call, I don't know if everyone's familiar with the term porte cochere, but it's basically a covered entrance where a vehicle can get out of weather, get out of the car, bring in their suitcase, check into the hotel. So we have a pretty wide established with special pavers to basically guide you and say, yes, this is the entrance to the hotel. Above that, I'll get into that further, is an elevated pool deck, and I'll talk to you a little bit about why that design feature is incorporated into the hotel. We also have secondary entrances off of DuPont up here, and also off of Orleans. We are showing a third entrance further down the property, which we're hoping will be designated for truck traffic. There'll be some truck traffic for deliveries, and it'll also be related to the convention component. We're also going to provide, heavy landscaping, upper class, really nice, lush landscaping throughout the facility. And we've also, getting into the retail space, we also, have very large patio elements in the front, which sort of activates the walking public and brings them into those spaces. So some of these site components are really critical for the project to function. It's really truly all about the guest experience. Their stay at the hotel, it's got to be top notch. It can't be done halfway. It's critical in hospitality to have your guests 100% satisfied. So some of the site related issues are focused on guest experience and coming in and where they go and the whole site orientation. Trying to think if there's anything I might have missed. So for the concept site plan, I think most of the points I wanted to make, I think I've gotten to you. Parking currently, we have, I think, 404 total spaces. I think the front, when I say front half, we're incorporating all these parking spaces. We're at about 251 spaces in the front. And then for the convention component, we have 153 parking spaces in the back. So totaling 404 parking spaces. Now it is a 200-room hotel, so we do need that amount of parking in front of the hotel. And we also want it, again, convenient for our clients, or our guests rather. So when they get out of their vehicle, we want them to have the ability to get to the front. Obviously most of them will pull up and drop off, but once you park your car, we want it very convenient for them to get back to the front door as quickly as possible. Outside of that, let me get to next slide. So this is the conceptual first floor plan. As you can see, this area is the porte cochere where the vehicles pull in and you drop off. And the entrance vestibule is right off the porte cochere. The thing that's most intriguing to me in this design is our lobby, when you enter, has a 25-foot high ceiling. Most hotels, I've designed plenty of hotels. Most hotels, if you got 14 or 15 feet in there, it's amazing. But our design again is guest experience, entering into the hotel and having somewhat of a wow factor and having everything top notch. And, it's, again, I can't reiterate as many times as I have, but it's all about the guests. Project has to be successful. And the only way to make sure is guest satisfaction and great guest experience. So, it's just more than the architecture. So after you enter the lobby with the 25-foot ceiling, we actually have a hotel restaurant to the left. And then to the right, we have some administrative offices. And I'll talk to you a little bit about breakout rooms and meeting rooms. Common toilet facilities on either side, men's and women's. On this wing, it's back of house, basically, which, basically is laundry, kitchen, those sort of components. And then as you enter through the lobby, there's a convention center lobby, pre-function space that connects the hotel to the convention hall. The convention hall is about 10,000 square feet. It's surrounded by service quarter so that, the people that are providing, whether it's dinner or whatever, aren't intermingling with the guests. They're able to sneak in and deliver food or whatever and sneak back out. And the convention lobby is set up at pre-function. So there's space where if a corporation comes in and they want to have their check-in desk or display products, plenty of room to do that before they enter the convention. We're also providing service doors on this end where, depending upon what its use is, if they're bringing in giant displays on pallets or, showing their product, if it happens to be that, there's an ease of getting those materials into the convention hall. Obviously, it's set up to be multifunctional, weddings, dinners, events, all that. And we also have, 2 vestibules on either side. So if you're leaving the convention, you really don't have to go back through the hotel. You can exit these doors and that ties back into the convention parking area. Now we have a lot of terminology called breakout rooms and meeting rooms. Those are in support of the convention hall. So a lot of conventions, everyone will gather and hustle and bustle, and then they'll break out of there and go to the respective breakout rooms and have their independent meetings. How did it go, or what are we going to do? Just have general in-house sort of conversations and have meetings and then venture back into the conventional. Or they can also be used for general meetings from the public outside that's not participating in an event in the convention center. We have 4 elevators service the hotel. The 2 center elevators are going to be designated express elevators. I'll get a little bit ahead of myself, but the 7th floor is an upscale restaurant. So people who want to come to go to the restaurant can either get one of those elevators and it's a straight motion right up to the restaurant so they don't, mingle with guests, which needs to be avoided from people from outside. We have 4 stair towers, 2 on the end, 2 off the lobby. And we also have two stair towers for the pool deck, which is over 5,000 square feet. So we do need, safety and have people be able to exit the pool deck in the event of an emergency. I think if there's anything, the convention hall is supported by, its own kitchen. It's got freezer cooler, dry goods storage. And again, that's where the service trucks will come in. And again, all the back of house stuff on the convention is done along the back wall. And they come out and go through the service quarters and support whatever functions occurring at the time. I think I got most of that. This is the 2nd floor of the hotel. And the biggest item I need to point out, and I have to give Mr. Glass's credit, lost my mark. What?
We need to throw it down a couple of times. Hey,
Hello? Yeah. I need you to speak loudly.
they always would take it off for punishment, I think. It's all the way.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I'll go over there. As I was saying, this is the second floor of the hotel. And I have to, architects like to brag about their design, all this. I have to give credit to Mr. Palacis on this design. Very impressive on what we did. And let me explain to you why. Everyone's wondering, why is this curved? We've not seen a curved hotel. What we've done, there's several reasons. What we've done, Mr. Palacis, I know when you all check into hotels, you want to be on the front side of the hotel. You don't want to be on the back side of the hotel. And this was a concern, again, just comfort.
Hey, the city may have.
Yeah. I'd appreciate it. Yeah, keep going.
So, as I was saying, most people check into the hotel, they'd rather be on the front of the hotel. Back of the hotel. In our case, what we did is we radiated the plan. So if you notice, in this design, we have 24 guest rooms on the front side of the hotel, which will take advantage of the reflecting ponds and the nice landscaping and all the elements we put in the site design. And then the back of the hotel has 13 rooms. So we did work really hard to get as many hotels on the front side of the hotel. And by curving it, it allowed us to get more rooms in that position. It also helps, I know, if you've ever stayed at a hotel where the corridor is like 100 miles long and you're wondering how you're going to get to your room, the slight curve in the corridor won't make you feel like you're walking miles. It kind of shortens your view as it curves. So that's helpful, especially in the mindset of guests if they're not walking 150 or 200 feet to get to the room. So that was another aspect of the curve design. Also, in siting the hotel on the property, we wanted to make sure we have a lot of times we do hotels where they're not really close to the road, but to the point where the sound of traffic comes into the room, and get a lot of complaints. So that was another concern in this design, is we don't want guests checking in and then hearing, Savannah highway noise or traffic noise or whatever is racing up and down. So what we've done to mitigate that is, the curve helps a little bit with deflecting sound, but not as much as I'd like. Obviously, the glass that we're going to be installing is going to have a high STC rating, which is basically to prevent not only sound from coming in, but it'll be treated to also mitigate heat and cooling and save that energy in the room. But here's another reason we did the reflecting ponds. We're counting on that buffering the noise when the fountains are on and it has a nice water feature sound. We're hoping that kind of mitigates noise hitting into the rooms, and more importantly, noise reaching the pool deck. Now, we've elevated the pool deck to the second floor for several reasons. First reason is privacy. You're not on the ground floor with whatever is coming around the pool. It's segregated on the second floor. Only hotel guests can get to it. And it's also for security. So you're getting privacy, security, and you're also getting the feature of looking out on the reflecting ponds and nice palm trees and hearing the sound of the fountains in the background. So it's also a calming effect. So, and we think that's extremely important in our design. As I pointed out, there's 4 elevators. We also have a pool lounge for those that don't want to be, you may not want to be in the hot sun on a particular day. So we have a pool lounge with bathrooms off there. We also have like a snack bar for light foods, hamburgers, hot dogs, that kind of thing. So they don't have to go down to the restaurant. We may even serve drinks and sodas and that kind of thing. So when you're on the pool deck, you really don't have to go any further than the pool deck, so to speak. Again, I'm trying to think if I covered everything. We do have, I didn't mention our 5th elevator. The 5th elevator is supporting housekeeping, so they're not riding the same elevator as passengers. They have their own elevator to bring linens and items, and it's also going to be a secondary use to bring product up to the 7th floor restaurant, as well as servicing the restaurant on the first floor. So that's an important feature. A lot of hotels won't do that. But again, Mr. Classes is focused on detail, providing the best product and the best guest experience he can. So a lot of these things, as an architect, I'm not used to doing. But in this particular project, this is a very impressive hotel. Next slide. This is your typical floor. And again, the curved design with, in this case, because we don't have a pool deck, we have 28 rooms in the front, 13 rooms in the back. And that's their general floor. That would be 3 through 5. I think 6, we have another feature. So that's typical floor. Here's the 6th floor. The only difference in the 6th floor is we have a fitness center that's centered over the pool deck. So if you're in the fitness center, you're actually looking down on the pool deck, down on the reflecting ponds, all the nice landscaping, and again, giving you calming effect and hopefully releasing stress as you're exercising. And again, the housekeeping elevator, that's on every floor. So again, the employees aren't intermingling with guests, they're sort of in the background. 7th floor. This is our restaurant floor, and we do have an outdoor terrace. So again, 2 express elevators bring you straight up to the restaurant level, have a full service bar, the kitchen to support that restaurant. And again, that elevator, that support elevator is connected to the lower floor. So product that's coming in, whether it be for the restaurant or for the kitchen or for the bar, comes up that elevator, and again, doesn't intermingle with guests. We do have an outdoor terrace, and if you took a hard look at the drone video from that terrace, that's pretty much the view you're going to get. You're going to hopefully see the Stono River in the background, and I think that'll probably be the finest view of the hotel. So sitting out there will be a fantastic experience, a lot to look at while you're up there. Again, two stair towers for emergencies to be able to get you down, and flanking either side is just the roof. That's the only component on the 7th floor. And again, it'll be an upscale restaurant, not only for the hotel guests, but for the general public. And then let's see. Okay, here's gives you a better understanding of the site. This is a rendering we did. Basically, I'll kind of go through it quickly again, make sure I didn't miss anything. But again, our main entrance, we have big sweeping curves so that you're not slamming on the brakes and backing up traffic. You should be able to gently pull in without decelerating too much. And it's a wider paved with pavers. It brings you to the porte cochere with the pool on the top. And the pool does have its own 2 stair towers for emergencies. You won't have access from the ground floor. So, the whole issue of security, we don't want people that aren't hotel guests being able to access. So those stairs are emergency down and out only in case there's a problem and someone's got to get out of there quickly. That's what those are for. Again, we have the reflecting ponds. They'll have aerators, so you'll see, fountains of water as you're pulling in. We have, again, the 2 5,000 square foot retail components. With them, there are outdoor patios that have been designated for each of those. So a restaurant venue should happen to come along. We have patio space for them. We also have a 4-foot wall that basically surrounds the front of these properties, where we're allowing access to the patio and the walkways so that pedestrians could come around and come to the other side of the retail component. We do have the patios in front of the retail space with planters, so we're trying to activate the general public as they're walking to partake in the retail component of the design. And again, you can see this is the restaurant terrace on the 7th floor with the pool on the 2nd floor. And these windows here will be the physical fitness room where they can actually overlook. And again, I can't stress enough the importance of those ponds. I mean, without those ponds, I think design would be lacking a lot. And I really don't know of any other hotel in the Charleston area that has focused as much as we have on the guest experience, the approach to the hotel, what you see, what you feel as you're driving into the property. Next slide. So here's a rendering of you pulling into the main drive. You got the reflecting ponds on either side, palm trees. This is the elevated pool deck, and this is the porte cochere underneath where you can pull around with your car to unload your luggage and enter the hotel. There's a 7th floor terrace of the restaurant. Obviously, that's the restaurant component. And here's part of that 4-foot high wall that kind of encompasses the property on the Savannah street side. But also hopefully buffering, sound from the highway and also buffering the parking lot. Let's see. It's just another rendering of view from sort of on the side of the parking near one of the retail components, kind of looking back at the hotel. And again, you can see 7th level terrace of the restaurant. And basically, I want to talk a little bit about the rooms. Rooms are fairly large. We're about 600 square feet, which is a good size hotel room, luxury. I would call that a luxury hotel room. We wanted to, a lot of the hotels, even I've done in the past, have little punched windows that are, maybe 5 foot wide, 4 foot tall, and that's about all you get in your room. And they usually have these little noisy air conditioning units below it. We're doing something completely different. We want to bring the outside in as much as possible. So we are putting wall-to-wall glass that will allow, when you enter your room, it'll bring the outside in. You won't be in a dark room below a window. We're also using, I don't want to get too technical, but the units, the heating and air conditioning units we're using are built into a closet in the room, so you don't hear the noise and generation of the equipment running. It'll be quieter. Again, all about guest experience, guest comfort. That's our focus on the project. So the majority of the materials on this project are glass. And where we don't have glass, we're proposing metal panel. Again, we want it contemporary, modern, very upscale, very impressionable building on Savannah Highway. So that's the majority of the reason for our design. Here's a closer view. This is obviously the pool deck, the porte cochere where you pull underneath. This is one of the stair towers for basically emergency only. We're showing kind of a living wall. Let's soften that up a little bit. Again, looking up, you can see the terrace. We actually cantilever the terrace for a better view on that upper level. Next slide. This is a rendering of the 7th floor restaurant terrace. And as you can see, we have a lot of dining capability. And hopefully the view will be phenomenal from up there, no matter where, which direction you look. There'll be, clear sight, a lot to take in when you're up that high. Looking out, obviously you'll be able to look down and see the reflecting ponds and out to the Stone River from that view looking south. That's the pool deck view. Obviously, it's elevated about 25 feet in the air, right over top of the porte cochere. Secure, safe, egress stairs, and again, you're able to look over and see the reflecting ponds and nice landscaping. And hopefully has a calming effect. And we've designed the pool deck large enough so in the event the hotel wants to offer some other outdoor facility or experience, or we get together for a crowd or an event, we have that capability of supporting that. The indoor lounge and the outdoor deck could function, as another event component to the design. Okay, this is at the corner of Orleans and Savannah Highway. This is the 5,000 square foot retail building. And again, we have an opening in the wall that general public can walk through and get to the front of the retail building. We've also developed a patio so that we can interact more with pedestrians and some planners and soften that up. So it's not a place just to walk by, but hopefully it's a place where we'll stop, interact with the retail space or just have conversations. But we want to activate that so it's not just blank wall, can't get in, and just walk by. So it's important to us to have that side of the retail component function to the public. One other thing we also are proposing, as I mentioned to you, the main entrance, we're creating some large radiuses so we can pull in without decelerating a whole bunch. We're also going to try and do the same thing, or proposing to do the same thing on Orleans. Right now, Orleans is such a sharp right turn that you almost have to come to a stop to make that turn. I mean, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So we're hoping to soften that radius up so that maybe potential vehicles won't have to come to a complete stop. And we're also traffic minded. There's a lot of facilities along Savannah Highway. Once they're engaged in lunch hour or what have you, there's a lot of backup. I've experienced it where you wonder why traffic stopped, and then you look and it's, oh, it's the line for Chick-fil-A back out into the highway. So we're taking that into effect with our design to make sure that we don't cause any of that backup and have vehicles be able to enter the site without a lot of problems with traffic. This is the other corner, DuPont and Savannah. And it's basically the same concept in design, interaction with patio and the public, and the ability to enter off the sidewalk and come into the space. Again, we have a patio associated with this building as well as a patio associated with the other building. And you can see the hotel in the background in the 7th-story terrace of the restaurant in that area. And it's that's our main entrance. So you can see we have retail main entrance, and then down here is the turn for Orleans. This is on the internal side of the property. So this would be sort of the vehicle side of the retail space where you pull in, park. And here's the patio terrace that may be associated with the retail component where they can sit out and have a bite to eat or socialize.
I want to ask you to sort of wrap it up a little bit.
Oh, I'm going too slow? I'm sorry.
Well,
okay.
It's been over 30 minutes. So
I just want to be thorough. Sorry.
You will be more than thorough.
Okay, but
and we appreciate the detail.
I'll move quicker. Quick view of someone sitting at the patios, enjoying themselves with the hotel in the background. And then again, we come to the initial slide showing the main entrance, and that wraps up my presentation. You spoke, you said it. I'll turn that over.
I do appreciate the detail that you.
Well, I want to make sure everyone totally understood.
So our process is going to be to allow members of the commission members to ask questions. I have a whole laundry list of questions I want to ask, but I don't want to hog the microphone. So I'm going to ask first, is there any commission members first? All right, pass that down to Barry. She made it. Yes.
Thank you for coming. I may have missed this, but could you elaborate on what would be done to the intersections of DuPont and Orleans to make the traffic flow to and from Savannah Highway?
Is it okay if I just speak loud?
Go try that for us and see.
Okay. On both those components right now, those roads, when you hit Savannah Highway, the radiuses, the turning radius for vehicles are extremely short. Current, we're proposing to increase that radius so that when you're either entering it, you're not, doing a real quick turn, or when you're approaching it, when they're 90 degrees, you almost have to slide, slam your brakes on, come to a complete stop, turn. What we want to do is smoothen that curve so as you're driving, you're not stopping. You may slow down a bit and gently turn onto the road. Now, the traffic light controls, I know, sitting at that light, it's pretty lengthy. We don't know if we can get that adjusted, but with the volume of cars, we have to take a look at that and see if we can make improvement.
Yeah, thank you. And what do you anticipate would be the increase in the volume of cars?
We do have, I believe, we had a traffic study underway.
Right.
We don't have it. I can't specifically answer because I don't know. We're studying that. We can release that information. So yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Ken. You had the back.
Thank you. So you mentioned the turning radius on both of those roads, Orleans and DuPont, is that they are greater than 90 degrees, and it is one to make turns.
Right.
But your entrance driveway has the same angle. And I have to wonder how cars are going to turn and out of there easily if there's no light there.
The radius, well, you're gonna, I don't want to say I take my word for it. The radiuses of those entrances, you know, the usual road entrance is like 25, maybe 20-foot diameter. Ours are approaching 50 feet diameter. So when you're coming in, it's almost like we're kind of got a gentle curve pull in, gentle curve pull out. So you're not doing a hard turn or putting on the brakes. So we're very, focused on traffic on Savannah Highway for many reasons. And one is we don't want to do a project that's going to contribute to more backups. The traffic we can't control, but the backups and the stopping and starting, I go down it all the time. It's painful at times. So we have that in our design. And as we develop this project, obviously this is not done, ready to construct. A lot of the comments, a lot of the additions will be taken into account. That was one of the first focuses. What do we do? Get them off Savannah Highway as quickly as possible, and also to have enough driveway. As cars are pulling in, the car doesn't have to short amount, and then the next car is stopping and getting back. So, I think we're at about 20, maybe 15 to 20 cars, can actually pull in and stack before it causes any problem. And there's no reason to stack, because when they get to the end, they're either parking or they're checking in for the hotel.
Stacking on the site is a real concern about.
Right.
What I'm more concerned about is if you have travelers on the northbound lanes trying to cross over the southbound lanes to the median and stacking up in the median and trying to turn across with essentially 3 lanes of traffic into a driveway that's a greater than 90-degree angle. It doesn't seem like a formula for easy.
Well, yeah, but okay. Your normal driveway, 24 feet. We're 31 feet, so we've widened that beyond what normal design calls for in order to, if this were a narrow and you were sitting here and you'd have to actually really make that judgment, I'd say it might be difficult, but when it's that wide, it's really, it mitigates the 90-degree concern or the tighter than 90-degree concern.
It doesn't quite mitigate the question of turning across 3 lanes of traffic.
I can't control the traffic.
No, you can't control where the entrance to the site is.
Right.
That's the other.
Can I say something about that? There's also an option on each corner. We have control of the traffic lights as far as.
There is an option on each corner, but if you're advertising this as the main entrance to your site, where are people being encouraged to go? They're not being encouraged to go onto Orleans and DuPont. They're being encouraged to go right in the center of that, right in the back line.
Exactly, yeah, okay.
That's where the majority of traffic is being encouraged to go.
Correct. I don't have a solution. I mean, I think there's many
The
businesses.
southbound side is really
Just
not an
because
issue.
respectfully, just because other businesses do things, doesn't mean we can do it.
I know. Well, I'm open for solutions if someone has it. But I don't have a good answer for you. We'll do some more research. And as we develop the project, if we come up with a better solution and widen the driveway, I'm all for it. I mean, yeah, our concern is traffic. We don't want it clogged.
My other question about Orleans and DuPont is you mentioned activation of those corners for pedestrians and having access sidewalk, but those sidewalks don't extend down Orleans or DuPont. I mean, there are neighborhoods that would presumably be using whatever commercial amenities are along that road, but they don't have pedestrian access to that based on this site plan.
No, you're correct. And that's something we have discussed, and there's probably a strong possibility that there will be curb and sidewalk and the roads as this project moves forward. Again, it's all conceptual. So I appreciate those comments, because we need to hear and understand what those concerns are and do our best to address them.
Can I get the size of the convention hall?
The actual convention hall proper inside where the activities for 10,000 square feet. The overall facility with the support, the corridors, I think we're approaching 20,000 square feet.
That's back down. Anybody on this side? Matt?
Thank you for being here. Just a couple quick questions for me. Is there a power line on that side of Savannah Highway currently?
I believe, if you don't mind, I'll play that aerial, we don't know.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Because I'm going by my memory, it's not always as sharp, but it needs to be. Looks like it's on the other side.
Okay, well, that helps, right? Because it's all about the views.
Right, yeah.
Right, so, okay. Beyond that, you covered parking capacity. Are you abiding just by the minimum shade tree requirement in the parking lot, or is there more than required?
We, I'll be 100%, this is conceptual. When we get into tree ordinance and requirements, we'll address those. Right now, we just want to give you an overall concept. You know, if there's more vegetation required, obviously that'll be provided. But I want to get more into why we're doing what we're doing. And I appreciate that. There's no way around, mitigating trees. We'll have to do what is required.
I just imagine getting to the seventh floor and seeing a parking lot.
No, that's
So,
not the intent.
So my only other comment would be, in your parking capacity at 251 for the hotel itself, does that account for the parking along Savannah Highway? And how do you park cars for the retail components?
Typically, in the history of design that I've done, the occupation of the hotel is usually in the evening, and then everyone vacates and goes where they go. And the retail, then the whole field of parking opens up. Now we have designated some immediate parking for the retail components, but during the day, it's pretty prototypical that most hotel parking lots pretty much empty. I mean, there'll be some people. So during the day, when these retail components have the majority of their business and operating hours, there'll be plenty of parking. During the evening, we are going to designate some parking for the retail space, but again, if we're thinking, we're all hopeful that we have 100% capacity and every room is full, that's a dream. That's what we all shoot for. We want everyone filling every room. Usually occupancy rates are 85, 90. So that'll account for even more parking for retail.
Okay. I agree with the comment about the sidewalks, obviously. Is there an idea of what would happen in that upper left corner of the property that's shown as green space in the site plan?
This area, right now, we don't have it designated, but we're thinking that perhaps might be resolution of some water retention. So we're kind of left that empty, knowing that would be coming. But I didn't want to show anything there because I don't know what the overall civil engineering design will resolve in. Because if I show a big pond there, I was going to get a big pond. It might not, but possibly.
So the reflecting pools are truly reflecting pools,
Yes,
not stormwater.
they're going to be treated, clean, and aerated. So you don't want a dirty pond as your boat.
I will say it's not an empty Hyundai dealership. It's not an empty lot. It's with a former commissioner of this commission with deep ties in West Ashley. And I'm excited to see where this goes. I know it has the zoning already in place, I believe, so that's not an issue. It's in the DuPont Wahoo overlay, so I guess we'll have to work on some things there, but I'm excited to see where this goes. So thank you for your continued investment in West Ashley, and I appreciate this visual.
I'd say the same thing that Councilman Moody just said. I think it's a wonderful project to come West Ashley. Frankly, we used to see efforts like this go downtown. And when you're talking about revitalizing West Ashley, I would wait 5 years on something like this. And so the private sector, I commend you. Can you go back up to the front? The front of Savannah Highway. Will the wiring be underground on that side?
If we're developing the site from pretty much scratch, I would propose that. So we would.
Great. And then I know you're trying to encourage people coming down the main causeway entrance, but to the question or concern about the left turn in there, I think if we all work together, get a left turn off of center lane into, DuPont. I think that solves, I think that's what you were trying to get to, Mr. Glasses, but, there's so many ingresses and egresses. Listen, I don't know if anybody ever tried to make a left turn into Charleston place, that's almost, next to impossible, so. We've got 4 or 5 ways of getting in and out of this one, so I commend, thank you for bringing it forward. Yeah, go over there.
I gotta do it. Does that work?
Yeah.
Throw it down. Well, thank you for, Jimmy, thank you for your interest in West Ashley, and you have several other hotels in West Ashley already.
We do.
Of course,
We have the Town and Country, and we have a new home too that we opened in 2019. Town and Country, we've been operating for almost 40 years now. I built it 40 years ago. My son Nick is with us, and he's been telling me what's right, what's wrong all these years.
children have a way of doing that. They don't know.
Yeah, but he's the director of operations, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. And we love West Ashley. We lived here in West Ashley for almost forever, ever since we've been married. We've been married 52 years. So,
Hey, wait a minute.
and but this is our investment in the community. We feel strongly about the community, and we want it to be a wonderful community in the future. And I think this is part of the plan.
So let's give some concept to this, Jimmy, so people understand what we're doing. To my colleagues, to Weatherby, to echo a little bit about this. You're taking a spot that's abandoned, it's unsightly. And I don't know if you can do this. If you go back to your drone oversight, if you can give the public sort of a point of perspective as to where the ponds would be, reflective ponds on, and we could freeze that area. I don't know if you could stop that.
Mr. Palacios is a very symmetrical person.
That I know about it.
Okay, so the driveway is dead center in the property.
So sort of give us a point of where that was.
So it's probably somewhere in here.
So the ponds would be to the, where the vegetation is, and to the left of that, where that building is.
Yes, right.
And I presume y'all have done this already, but to give some concept of this, what other hotel or accommodations in West Ashley would measure to this existing right now?
What other hotels in
West Ashley?
we can compare this entrance?
Town and Country would be.
The Town and Country is, has 2 curb cuts. So
I'm talking about size, I'm talking about the makeup of the building, the number of hotel rooms.
how does this fit?
Yeah.
This is above everything in West Ashley.
So, I mean, and the Town and Country would be a
Town and
second,
Country would be number 2.
but not even a close number.
No. Well, let's put it this way. The bathrooms alone,
I am, but
the bathrooms alone are 144 square feet, 12 by 12. That's the size of a bedroom in a home. You have a walk-in shower in every bathroom. You have a 6-foot soaking tub in every bathroom. You have a double vanity, 6 feet long in every bathroom, granite top. You have a separate toilet room in every bathroom. It's very upscale, very upscale.
And the reason I know some of the answers to this question, that's what lawyers do. They always ask a question you expect the answer to. But I want the public to sort of get a sense of scale and design of what you're doing here, Jimmy, is that this is going to be a first-class operation. This is a hotel that we would expect to see on the peninsula of Charleston. It may not be to the same size of hotel as the Charleston place with the number of rooms, but you're going to have a 10,000 square foot convention center. And so that opens up the possibilities for what we would think about being, conventional convention rooms, such as a wedding or a international civic organization, like Northern International, maybe want to have a meeting there, come in from around the world. But this is going to attract, I think, more than just the normal conventioners that are coming here with the size of the rooms, the amenities that you're going to provide. So you're all 526, you're close to 526. On Savannah Highway, you're not too far from I-26. This is going to be a nice central place for traffic, for commuters to come into to visit. I think that's what you're trying to aim for. Go ahead, jump in.
Well, so we already answered your question. We are building a hotel at luxury standards. So all the rooms again are 600 square feet. We do have a number of suites in this hotel as well. And the banquet facility, event facility, I can go back to that first slide, one reference, can accommodate up to 500 guests, 500 plus guests, which all of a sudden puts West Ashley in the strike zone for an event, whereas you'd have to go to North Charleston, the convention center, or you'd have to go downtown. And even downtown, you're running problems at 500 people. So this opens up a whole wealth of options for us. In addition, we do have a restaurant location on the ground floor as well, with outdoor dining as well. And then, you know, this just the amount of amenities here would rival any downtown property. I would say this could very easily be one of the nicest rooms in Charleston, and it's in West Ashley. So we're in it, like my father said, we're West Ashley natives. I grew up in West Ashley. I've always wanted the best things for West Ashley, and you know, we built the town and country in '84, the home 2 in 2019. We worked hard to conceptualize this, but we are very vested in this area. We want to continue to see it advance, and we want to capitalize this area here as well.
Thank you for those comments.
And we have parking for the event, which downtown does not have.
I do have a question about parking. If you were to have an event in the space, 500 people, where do you have overflow plans?
Overflow,
If you
yes,
had
we
it
have two other
90%,
hotels right
Right,
there.
90%
Within,
occupancy.
one of them's within about 200 feet, and the other one is across the street.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that if you were to have that event, have the occupancy.
We have totally almost, let's see, we would have, 152. We have almost 500 rooms between the three hotels.
Oh, great, okay.
My next question is, what do you have envisioned for the two retail spaces that are on the corners?
Well, Mark, you want to take that? Okay.
Right now, it's ideally, we'd like to see some restaurants there on the left and right side. We've got it broken up right now conceptually in the 5 bays, but we want to hopefully foster an environment where we can have utilize these outdoor patios on the left and right side. And where guests or diners can come out, enjoy a nice patio environment and have that soothing lapping water feeling as you're dining out front. So, but we have 5,000 square feet, and right now they can be, could be 1,000 square foot units, or a restaurant could take, 3,000 of that square feet. So, but ideally we'd like to have some type of consistency with tenants out there. So it's not a nail salon or some other thing that's just kind of hodgepodge. We want to make sure that whatever tenant goes there is also consistent with the experience that we're providing in the property, a high-end experience.
My final question, sort of concern, is what has been expressed about the traffic and the connectivity. Plan West Ashley is very much focused on connectivity. And while this is not an area that is going to bring folks walking here, we do want to provide the opportunity for walking space, bicycle space, things of that nature. And to my colleague's point that he brought out, but the Charleston place, they planned a grand entrance. When that hotel was built, the grand entrance was going to be off of Market Street. And it wasn't soon after that they realized that was a bad idea. And so they've got, I think, 4 or 5 other entrances coming there. And I know the intent is to build this sort of wow moment of coming in infection march, but I think the concern, and you do your traffic studies and your other studies, but I think the other questions are going to be, having as many available alternate access points to come in here, because Savannah Highway is heavily traveled right now. And you talk about 500 guests coming, that's 250 more cars, and that does have an impact on, so I think the public's concern is going to be, and my concern is going to be, making sure there's a steady, easy flow in and out of the complex. And you've got DuPont Road and Orange Road as access. I mean, I think you've got opportunities to address that.
Very good opportunity.
I think you got plenty of opportunities to address that. And I would ask also, because you've been dealing with this now on the Sumas Street project, when you have these alternate ingress, egress areas, when you start the design process and you get to the details of that, I would hope that you would look at making sure that those ingress, egress areas are as, maybe not as of a wow factor as what you got shown here, but it doesn't look like a service interest coming in and out as well. So that your patrons and your visitors have a positive feel coming in, even if it's not off of Savannah Highway, if it takes the other interest areas. Because the way the Charles Place did it, they did a fine job of retooling that coming off of Hazel Street and also off of Main Street. So I would just, words of encouragement, I guess, to sort of make sure that we're taking those kind of things into consideration.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's true. I mean, the only other thing that, about our main entrance, it's typically designed for patrons that are staying. So, but we're also doing this for people that are just driving by too. And they go, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's a secondary feature versus having your typical driveway. So it's the wow factor, not only for guests, but for the whole West Ashley. I mean, try to make a successful project and make statements.
The folks at the Jasper, I think, did a nice job at nighttime when you go down Lockwood Boulevard and how they illuminated the lobby area. I know that Teresa has a question and what else from Moody. So
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
You even have 3 pathways to get into this project, so that's really a plus. We could get some cooperation from the DOT as far as.
Good luck.
Right.
Teresa and Councilmember Moody, and then back to what you go for.
Just to be really brief, so you do have the 3 accesses, entrances, and you're going to be marketing this, and you still have that wow factor on Savannah Highway, but I could see the word is a boulevard coming in from Orlando and DuPont in the shape of the building, and it can be just as much of that wow factor.
Yeah.
And great, yeah, to increase housing, and it takes the burden off. That's it.
Thank you, Chairman Shade. I'll remind you guys that the Savannah Highway capacity work envisions the DuPont Road section being realigned. That's a quirky intersection there with the Captain D's and everything. So I probably don't have to tell you this, but make sure you're working with the county as they're redesigning that intersection. And Peter, Chairman Shade, to your point about connectivity, that should help clean up that intersection a little bit. And then further north of Wapu Road, there's going to be some more work done there as well. So leading from Wapu down towards this property. But that just needs to be on your radar that work is being planned.
Mr. Palacios, so often on projects like this, it becomes a us against them. What can we do to be of help? Because we want to see how we can make this happen as people on city council, county council, stakeholders in the community. West Ashley revitalization has been a topic for so long. Now we've got a catalyst. And if you can answer that question today, think about it. And by our next meeting, at least submit those to Eric, because you shouldn't be going at this one by yourself. You should have us going down trying to get this done. So normally you don't get that on projects like that. But think about it as an architect or investment team. What can we do with West Ashley Revitalization, members of council, members of county councils, and stakeholders in the community to be of help to help this thing happen?
And I'll use that segue, Councilman Waring, that so the public is aware of this too, is that this is the very first step with this project. This is unfortunately a ways down the road until this is going to be completed. For the public to be aware that there will be a design review board review of this project, and they'll get more of the nitty-gritty detail. Wood County.
Correct. All three parcels are currently in the county.
Thank you. Yeah. So,
We gotta come up with an incentive package to get it.
we're gonna send it back to you to just, thank you for correcting me on that. Good about that.
No, the zoning is in place.
The zoning would be before the county.
Zoning is good.
All right, from the commissioners, that's all the questions we have. Thank you all. We've spent an hour doing that. That's why I was trying to speed you up a little bit, because I knew we would have a bunch of questions from commission members. Thank you all for hanging around a few minutes. I think we may have some questions from the public as well. Eric, you going to give us an update on Plan West Ashley focus elements update?
One second.
He got it working.
One more meeting. All right.
IT.
Okay, so, this is the West Ashley, work group update. So for the public who's kind of new to the meetings coming in, we have, 19-person commission. So as you can imagine, at 1.5 to 2 hour meeting every other month, we can't debate everything that we need to. So we break them out into smaller, like 2 to 3 person ones, and meet in between and try and figure out what we can be doing to move everything along. This year, we are focusing on these 2, 4, 6 elements from Plan West Ashley. And for these elements, just a brief update for what the groups have been doing. For example, on item 42 and 5, we combined these into one work group meeting, and we had a meeting for those on June 6th. And I'll pull up the presentation next about that one. That's one that we've made the most progress on right now. For item 115, this one is one that I've been working on. So this is exploring a business license fee reduction. After consulting with some other municipalities in the area about how they're doing it, we have a pretty solid idea of how to move forward and kind of the areas that had tripped them up as well. So that one, I'll be pulling that one together and hopefully be reviewing that with our budget department, who controls the business license fees, in the next month or 2 here. So when it comes to the implementation of pedestrian bike and wayfinding system, the city parks department has started a series of meetings with Charleston Move, some public input, Charleston Parks Conservancy to do wayfinding on the West Ashley Greenway and Bikeway. So as that moves further down the line, I'll be coming back with more information for you guys about that one. Right now, we've just had our very infancy meeting where the design consultant was figuring out kind of what had been done in the past and what the general movement forward was. So we have another meeting, I believe that's this Friday. Yes, this Friday. So I'll be able to report back to you about that one in a little bit. And then due to some scheduling, we were not able to get with Ernest Andrade from the Charleston Digital Corridor until next week, next Monday, I think, or Tuesday. So that group will be meeting with him to figure out how can we better integrate Charleston between the, he's not here tonight, but Ryan Comeback, the principal of West Ashley High School, try and figure out how can we get some of our West Ashley Advanced Studies students in with the Charleston Digital Corridor, but then also how can we work with Ernest to take some of the people that have maybe been seated at the digital corridor and they want to expand out. Well, we have plenty of space for tech companies to expand out here. So figure out how can we work with them on that cycle. So with items 5 and 42 regarding the beautification and entry areas, we had a meeting June 6th at West Ashley High School. The commission members there were Ryan Comeback, Matt Moldenhauer, Amy Sutton, Councilmember Waring, and Teresa Tydstrom. And then Kenneth Meralda was intending to be there, but he was unable to join. We discussed some items that were underway that Teresa is doing as chair of West Ashley Connects. And then we looked at some additional items. So some of the stuff that we discussed was replacement neighborhood entry signs. This is a program that Teresa is already undertaking with West Ashley Connects to identify the smaller neighborhood signs. So like the ones that say Avondale, Magnolia. What are some of the other ones, Teresa?
Hemingway, which is in Dogwood, is that horse?
So yeah, it's the small little entry signs into the actual neighborhoods, not the big gateway entry signs. We also talked about those, but just trying to approach this from every angle. So Teresa's working right now to get some grant funding in order to partner with either the HOA if they exist or other neighborhood councils to get together with them and figure out how can they spruce up and rebuild these signs that were originally installed by a developer in 1960, 1950. So we'll keep working on that one. Keep West Ashley Beautiful affiliate. Teresa's been working towards that one. Do you have any updates you want to talk about?
I do, it's just extremely short, so, Keep Charleston Beautiful, is moving ahead, it will be formed. It will be standalone instead of with the city of Charleston, which already has theirs. The reason being is we are cross with the county and the city cannot come into the county with their province. So we're going to make it available for both municipalities.
All right, excellent. And then beautification of entryways. And so that one was looking at some direct investment. This would be going towards what Councilmember Waring's always talking about with Champion Hall and other entry areas and trying to get them in line. Some other items discussed is Old Town Road, the resurfacing. So SCDOT will be coming through potentially in 2023 to resurface Old Town Road. And so we're going to try and get with SCDOT about that and see how can we get some additional improvements along there in the way of bike lanes or other elements of that nature on it.
As far as Champion Road, we do have a landscaping company that has submitted, they're going to be volunteering and going in on a regular basis too, until we've gone to the point where something is being done, they're going to keep it clean.
All right. Another one that we talked about, so this one I'm going to have to contact a lot of DOTs. The I-26 signage, this was brought up that instead of having it listed as Cosgrove Avenue, have it listed as Sam Rittenberg for the SC7 South exits on I-26. And just looking at other ways along 526 and locations that we can make sure that it's the correct signage for the area. Also one that was brought up that we discussed a good bit and is actually also being researched by our business and neighborhood service for King Street is wayfinding and beautification on traffic signal boxes. So we do have at least one in West Ashley at the intersection of Windermere and Folly Road Boulevard. There's that girl painting around the traffic box. So we're going to look at what is the process forward in our area to get that along. And then we'll come back to you guys about what do we do in terms of selection, because we definitely have far more signal boxes than King Street has. So we can make a lot more impact with this. And then just circled back to the neighborhood entry and aesthetics. So that was what we discussed at those meetings. And yeah, that would be the wrap up for the work group, unless anyone else on one of those work groups would like to say anything.
Any commission members or folks?
You like it? He wants you to. You want me to? Okay, all right.
Apparently. I would just make one comment, Teresa, about championing of all ways, is that as we go through that cleanup, the residents still want that buffer.
Certainly.
Yeah, we certainly want that buffer for the traffic. It does calm that noise down, I guess.
Very much.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Amy, you can feel free to comment on this, or Councilmember Waring. So we spoke about, I'll touch on a couple things. The update I-26 signage, naming and signage of Cosgrove Avenue. So with the Port Access Road, the DOT already took a first step. And one of those overpasses, instead of saying Cosgrove Avenue South, it says San Bernardburg, 7 South. And so I think all we're trying to do is take a cue from that. It probably would be a very easy conversation, as long as, they may ask the city or some entity for money to pay for that signage, but that seems like it would be helpful for West Ashley. And then in terms of consistent identity on that signage, I think the other one I'll touch on is neighborhood entry. That last bullet, what we talked about doing was, Teresa's working on improving monument signage for communities that don't have an HOA to support the maintenance of that signage, that monument signage. And what we talked about doing is trying to come up with sort of a consistent brand for neighborhoods in West Ashley. And one of those ideas, and we don't have a clear path forward on this, but one of those ideas was maybe there's a consistent placard or that says something like established 1963 or 1954. And it's consistent in every neighborhood. So when you see that placard, you know exactly where you are. You're in West Ashley. And you know when that neighborhood was developed, and you know that it's part of the fabric of your community. So although each monument sign may be different, there's a common thread throughout.
And Matt, it's really important what you said. These are neighborhoods, not subdivisions. And I think that you have the consistency with the signage on those neighborhoods. It sort of shows the branding of West Ashley as a neighborhood community.
All right, what about the bike designated? They don't, town road, coordinating that with the city.
You did a good job. You got a problem to be too modest, sounds like.
So I think the email that I wrote to you was that the city should budget for the design work that could be fed into the DOT. So if the city were able to support or fund a design team or an engineering team to come in and propose something that the DOT could sign off on, and obviously that the county would concur with, then that would be a clearer path to executing a desirable design. I mean, Old Town, we talk about Old Town. I mean, the Old Town historic area, historic district is incredibly significantly important to the development. I mean, it's the birthplace of South Carolina, right? So once in a lifetime, you may have an opportunity to do the right paving job on a road like Old Town Road. I mean, DOT would tell you, I ask them every year, when are you going to resurface Old Town Road? I think you have an opportunity coming in there with the county park being built in the future. The county has its 171 project being kind of reworked and retooled at the moment. That ought to be a great project. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities coming in. And I think it's just an opportunity for the city, even if the city doesn't own the road, it's an opportunity for the city to lead the way in capitalizing on that, on the resurfacing project.
You want to add anything? I'm sorry.
No, that was great.
It was agreed, it was a committee meeting that's now bubbled up to this level. We getting ready to go into budget preparation. And thank you for the suggestion, because we would never know.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in our budget meeting. Eric, anything else? Okay. All right, do we have any idea of how many folks wish to make a comment or a question? Eric?
Well, there was the one other agenda item, which was Councilman Waring had requested updates on three different elements going on, or three different projects going on in the city for West Ashley. So, okay, yeah. All right. So the three questions that Councilman Waring had was an update on WPAL radio station site. So this is a city-owned parcel that is on Wapu Road along Stona River, in between where Wapu Road turns to go to, thank you, Edgewater Park. The parcel was purchased 2016. The Highland acreage is 1.3, Marshland 32.8. In August of 2019, a selection for design services was held with the city. The selected consultant is Johnson Meerman Thompson. A draft contract was started with the consultant, but put on hold in early 2020 when COVID started. Mayor Tecklenburg has since requested that the city capital improvements re-engage with consultant to start contract negotiations again. This should result in a fall start time for design process as soon as the contract is approved through city council. Update number 2 was the anticipated opening of Carr Richardson Park and the amount needed for proper signage. Contractor continues to make commitments for completion through pace of work, though pace of work does not match the claims. With labor, supply, cost challenges right now, we will continue to press them, although we do not have any tools to move them more quickly. Interpretive signage, this was not included in the original project. There is a request for 4 interpretive panels for history and up to 5 bronze plaques to memorialize specific community members. Ms. Higgins has submitted a research and proposal to the History Commission. When it comes to the cost, bronze plaques are about $1,000 each. Interpretive boards are about $2,000 each. We would need to contract with the local company to create artwork and arrange history after the History Commission approves it. With a proper proposal, the estimate is no less than as $2,500, but I think that's incorrect because then he breaks it down further. So it'd be bronze plaques, $5,000 for 5, $8,000 for 4 interpretive panels, $2,500 for the consultant service to do the arrangement on those. Installation would be done by the city for an estimated total of about $15,500. And then West Ashley Greenway MOU between Charleston Water Service and City of Charleston. The new pedestrian bridge over Long Creek Crossing was approved at Ways and Means on June 21st. Contract total is for $396,304. Vendor is preparing engineering drawings for the city to review. Once approved, they have indicated fabrication will start in August with an indicated shipping date mid-August. This section of the Greenway will be closed up to 60 days when it becomes construction, when it does become a construction site for all associated work. The new CWS lease should be finalized at the next council meeting. So those are the updates provided from Jason Fronsberg with the CIP.
Thank you very much.
And it's good to have those kind of updates on a regular basis. I appreciate Councilman Waring bringing that to our attention. Get these updates on a regular basis. And the public is informed, we're informed of all the work we've been doing on revitalizing West Access, all part of the same process. All right,
So let me add one other thing.
okay.
We've got that WPL park, the city has budgeted, actually when his dad was on council, 1.5 million for that WPL park. We need about another 1.5 million to get the park completed. We've had those dollars put aside for about 3 years because COVID stepped in. And now we're back to budget And it's up to us to wrestle and get something.
We'll wrestle that out.
Councilmember, does that number include the connectivity from the end of the current sidewalk to the park?
It does not. Good
Well,
question.
that would be helpful. That would be real helpful.
Now, can we go to public comment? All right. So do we have any idea of how many folks wish to ask a question or make a comment? Can I have a show of hands? Like 1, 2. So what I'd ask you to do is sort of form a line. This is Mr. Morgan at the very end. So if you would just come over towards Mr. Morgan, just raise your hand again, Christopher, so they can see you. Just come over that direction, and then it is almost 7 o'clock. So can we limit you to 2 total minutes, please?
Hello, I'm Carlton Swift. I am the current president of the DuPont Station Neighborhood Coalition. I'd like to say a few words in support of WPAL Park. Tourism has bounced back and we're grateful. We'd like to encourage the city of Charleston to invest some of the surplus tourism revenue this year in West Ashley, specifically toward the proposed passive park at the WPAL radio transmitter on Walker Road. Plans for the park include a boardwalk over the marsh, a quarter-mile hiking trail, as well as a much-needed place to launch kayaks. We all deserve equitable access to the water. WPAL would be a perfect location for West Ashley to experience and enjoy the Stono River. I appreciate the updates on the aforementioned park, as well as Carl Richardson and the Greenway. I would like to strongly encourage this committee to work to make sure these projects get the necessary funding. Thank you for your time.
I was going to respond to that comment. I appreciate what you said, because it is, in my opinion, shameful that we do not provide the public with more access to the water. We're surrounded by the Ashley River, the Cooper River, the Stono River, and the Wando River, and we don't provide enough public access to our water. And we're surrounded by water. We should provide, if you want to launch a boat, a kayak, a canoe, waterboard, whatever, that, so I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And I just asked Councilman Ware how feasible is that going to be for that site? And we're going to look into that. So thank you for that comment. Really appreciate it. Yes, sir. And I think we need to make sure, because our record's going to reflect you talked. And we get your name? Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Gregory Hamilton, and I'm in support of the hotel project. I own several properties on DuPont Road, built a new building and renovated another building, and I just completely lost hope in the area. So, and I have other properties on DuPont Road under contract, so it makes me feel better of Mr. Palacios' investment. So thank you.
Thank you. And that's what we need to hear as well, because the impact this project may have on West Ashley and surrounding properties should be a positive impact.
Yeah, I was ready to give up and sell everything.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Thank you. Yes, sir. State your name for our record, please.
Alan Freeman. I live in Edgewater Park. And just a couple of comments about the radio station and potential park. I've got some concerns about it as a local resident. I totally agree with the need for access to our wonderful rivers and waterways in the area. This particular, we have to understand though the access to this site, the potential parking issues that we have there, the gathering of people at the bridge that goes from Wapu over into Edgewater Park. That's not it's not looked after the rules and guidelines to it as much as it should be. So if and when the project does move forward, it needs to have parking. The walking I've read about the pedestrian access to the park property. Walking on Wapu Road is very dangerous right now. There are no sidewalks, no, people park on the shoulder, and there's really no shoulder. And there's water issues there as well. So I think the potential development of this needs to be really looked at significantly, in addition to the boardwalks and the actual access to the parkway. So I just wanted to make sure that.
It is a narrow strip of land out there, and we do have a whole lot of wiggle room for accommodating all that, but I think it can be done. And we'll make sure we tag you as well to help us with the.
That'd be great. I left my email address as well, and I'm delighted to help along any way I can. Again, pedestrian, bicycle access, et cetera. And if people are bringing their kayaks, they're going to need cars, so they need places to park as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll just end with this. Is anybody else want to ask a comment or question? You have 3 elected officials up here, County Councilmember Moody, City Councilmember Waring, and myself. And all of us will tell you this: we are only as good as you allow us to be, because if we don't hear from you, in the questions and suggestions that we just heard from the 3 gentlemen a moment ago, that makes our jobs a whole lot easier and a whole lot more effective when we hear from y'all. So we appreciate those, because we're not out there all the time. We're residents of West Ashley. We walk, we travel, we ride around there. We really do appreciate y'all's input, and more folks who step up to this is welcome. And we thank you for doing that. All right, we try to make these meetings an hour. That they're an hour and a half, and not that we want to rush through these, but we appreciate the citizens' participation with this. What you want to talk about today?
And a big announcement.
Yes.
I'm going to take the floor for a moment. So my name is Matt Holdenhauer. In my day job, I work for Charleston County Parks, and I'm leading a 10-year comprehensive planning project for Charleston County Parks. And so we have public workshops next week. There's a public workshop at Bees Ferry, West Ashley Library. That would be the closest location. That is Wednesday evening from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Come help us plan the next 10 years of Charleston County Parks. I've got flyers. We have a survey on our website. So please come support that project if you don't mind.
Seeing no further business before this commission,